Okay, we covered a lot when we did part two and talked about copywriting. So I thought I would create this video to just sort of go over the key points to simplify the process. So as you're trying to write down and you just want the basics, depending on, the quality of the notes you took, this might help you move a little more smoothly through the process. So as far as the writing process goes, first thing you want to do is identify the target, which of course I'm sure you have done as part of your business planning anyway, so you know who you're trying to reach. The next thing you want to do is your big idea. What do you want to convey? And remember, the big idea is something simple that can be weaved through the document, whatever you're writing, no matter what. Like your plan is easy, for example, or it's there's a simple solution to what they think is their problem. The big idea is easy to convey. And then, of course, you also want to know what the target desire is of your intended reader. So, what do they want? How do they feel? And you want to make a list if you have more than one target desire for this group. So a lot of the writing process starts with making notes and lists. So now you want to list all the points that support the idea that you came up with. Do you have a testimonial, a study to quote, a personal story to tell? Like, what do you have that's going to help you support this idea that you want to convey? You want to make a list of all the solutions and benefits. And remember, benefits are the desires and the goals of the client or potential client, not the features of your program. Then, of course, you want to list the features. Pick one as a bonus. You can have more than one if you want. You can actually structure 2 or 3 bonuses. Depends how many features you have to your service or your program. And then you're going to create your call to action. So your call to action is going to involve, the price. That's not usually put in the copy. That's usually saved for a sales letter when they actually click to go buy. But it will include, if there's an early bird, or what kind of timing you're doing, or what exactly it is you want them to do. And then, of course, you have to decide if you want to use a PS. And we talked about that in part 2, and that is your option. I don't do it all the time, but I do it some of the time. Okay, so you're ready to write. And this is just a review of the different sections. So it starts with the headline, then you do the lead, then you do the sales argument, then you make the offer, then you have your close, and the PS. Okay, so we'll start with the headline. It should include the big idea in some fashion. Be sure that it meets the 4 U's. So the title is unique, urgent, meaning that there's, encouraging them to do something now. It's useful, whatever you're saying, and it's very specific. And this is going to be more about the target audience. So it's going to be something specific to the group of people that you're trying to reach. You must grab them emotionally with the title. You want to test different titles because you never know which ones are going to work. Now that next section is the lead, and so the lead can actually start in the subtitle or a tagline, but usually it is the first paragraph. It can be a story, or it can just be, some thoughts that you had that center around the topic that you're discussing and the big idea that you have. It does contain the big idea because everything will, but it must forge an instant connection with the audience. So this is kind of make it or break it. The title gets them to read. The first paragraph gets them to keep reading. And it's going to set the tone and the pace for the entire document. So it is a very important element. This is why a story can be so effective, because people like stories. You can include benefits, not a lot, but just, that there is a benefit, and you can hint at the solution, which of course is your offer that's coming up. So you can say something like, and keep reading because I have a solution. That's a simple way to do it. Anything like that, you can just hinting. You're just hinting. Okay, so the next section is the sales argument. This is the bulk of the document. So you're going to stress the benefits more. And it should be presented as a desired solution to the reader's problem, what they want, always. You can include a story or a continuation of a story from the lead. So if you started the story with the lead, then you're just going to continue the story and tell them how the story progresses. Could be a testimonial. You could do studies if you needed them for whatever you're talking about. It's building authority and showing that you know what you're talking about or that you have something of value to say. And it must include a promise. And again, it's not an overt promise, but just you're letting them know that you've got something to tell them, and you're promising to give them some solutions that'll help their situation, right? I mean, a promise, and I think this should be stated very clearly, a promise is not that they're going to accomplish something in 30 days. That is a type of promise, but you don't have to make that kind of promise. You can just say that you're promising, the best information that you have, or that you'll work with them and be a partner with them. Like a promise can be quite sincere. And then list the features. So after you've got them emotionally, because you've talked about the benefits and how that's going to help them, and you've tackled their issues and shown them that there's a way to do something better with what they have. Now you can tell them what's in the actual program or the service. So it's 6 weeks, you get an ebook, whatever the features are, one-on-one sessions, live webinars, whatever the features are. And remember that your offer, so your service or your program, is the actual solution. So even though you may have talked about, for example, say you used a testimonial and you said, the solution that the client who had the testimonial, was giving, you've stated that in the testimonial, or it's part of the story that you told, it's not the ultimate solution. The ultimate solution is, if they want really to solve all their problems, is to sign up for your service or program. Okay, so now that you've got all of that done, now you can make the offer. You're going to tell the reader exactly what you're offering, when and what. You want to make it irresistible, so you do this with bonuses and special pricing. Remember to reinforce the big idea and make the promise. And make sure you give them a reason to act now. So a deadline of some kind for the start, or an early bird pricing. All of these are incentives for people to act sooner rather than later, because I can tell you right now that many people will read what you do and want to take advantage of it, but life gets in the way. And so they need something that gives them a push to do it now. And people work to deadlines quite nicely. After you've done that, you need to close. So you want to restate the big idea and the promise. Again, you're always going to be using new words. You want to include one more bonus, perhaps. So you can say, but wait, I have one more thing to tell you. And you give them something else that you're offering. You want to add the link. So just so you know, the link generally appears 3 times. One is closer to the beginning or the middle. One is now, okay? And then the last one comes in the PS. So if you don't do a PS, then only do it twice. All right, so this brings us to the PS. It's a great opportunity to add extra info. It could be a reminder of the early bird deadline. It could be a 1-sentence testimonial from a client, or it could just be another enticing piece of information, like, oh, by the way, when you do X, this happens, kind of thing. Depends on what you wrote about. And then add the link again, but you want to keep it very simple. So just a simple little small click here and hyperlink it so that when they click on it, it takes them to the sales page. Okay, so usually you have thought about the big idea, the point that you want them to walk away from. This is usually where you start, right? And this happens to me. I have a sentence. I think of a sentence, and everything I do after that builds around this sentence. And I may not even use the sentence as I originally created it or originally thought of it, but there's a thought. There's like, you know what? I bet they'd like this point. I think they would like this. This would make sense. And it starts there. You want to build all the details around this. And it does take practice to write flowingly, but if you do it over and over in time, you will get better and better at it. And that's the thing that you have to keep remembering. This is not an easy thing to do, but it's well worth your doing it. And I would start with emails because those are the things that you're going to be using the most often. And it can be around your blog posts too, but blog posts are a little different because you're not usually aren't selling something. Usually the call to action is, you know, write a comment or something like that. Although occasionally you can also say, I did mention my service. If you want to learn more about it, click here. But it's not usually the the obvious sale that you would do in an email. Okay, so hopefully that helps make the process a little simpler after you've heard part 2, and that helps you to get started.